is the benefit of this national lockdown? We're still having extreme weather.
How dare
Taylor? Everything back running normally?
Thankfully, yes. Like normally, we've got a workaround going, but the duct tape is holding up very well.
Okay. Anyway, and if you want to get involved in the contest, we'll have Dr. Highness on in the next day or so to visit. I'm sorry. What?
Hairman.com/Howie.
Hairman.com/Howie. Excuse me. I'm sorry. Okay. And by the way, I'm going to be on Fox and Friends tomorrow around 6:35 a.m. It's pretty much logged in there, and it's solid. And I'm going to be discussing ER Eats, so you can watch me there. And I'll be wearing a coat and tie and all that good stuff. So tell your friends, and we're looking forward to that. All right. Today's poll question is brought to you by Honey, the easiest way to find the biggest discounts online. It's free to use and will have you saving money within minutes. Download Honey today at joinhoney.com/Howie. Joinhoney.com/Howie. Taylor, what's the poll question? And what are the results thus far?
Would it be wise of President Trump to fire Dr. Fauci?
No, it would not be. I don't think he's going to anyway. He kind of shot from the hip after he saw that headline. He was angry when he saw that headline. Who wasn't? But Dr. Fauci just kind of got set up. He's not my cup of tea, but don't fire him.
And 72% say no, it wouldn't be wise to fire him.
All right. 844-500-4242. There's a lot going on here, and let's just play a couple of more sound cut. This is from de Blasio, and again, they're making it seem like all the Democrats were demanding that Donald Trump shut down everything and save lives and et cetera. But they weren't. Pelosi was saying go to Chinatown for the Chinese New Year. This was in late February, more than 3 weeks after Trump had shut down traffic to China. And this is de Blasio, the mayor of New York, and he was also telling people to go to New York's Chinatown and just go on about your lives. Go to the theaters. It's really safe to be in a theater. That's why AMC Theaters is getting ready to file for bankruptcy, because it's no one's going to go back to theaters for a long time. I'm sorry for the people who are going to lose their jobs that work at the theaters. But cut 5, please.
It's important to just go about your lives, continue living as you have. New Yorkers should go about our lives, continue doing what we do. This should not stop you from going about your life, should not stop you from going to Chinatown and going out to eat. We want people still to go on about their lives. We want people to rest assured that a lot is being done to protect them.
How do you get to Chinatown? Don't take an Uber. Go on the subway. That's the best way to do it. Take a bus to the nearest subway stop. Everything's fine. Nothing to see here, folks. Move along. And then, of course, de Blasio, he lives in Gracie Mansion in Manhattan, but he still likes to go to his old gym in Park Slope. I think it's about 13 miles away, as the crow flies, or as the crow doesn't fly, as the crow goes through the tunnel or over the bridge. So de Blasio, here he is explaining to his constituents why he can go to the gym, but they can't. Cut 4.
I did not for a moment think there was anything problematic, because I knew the dynamics. And again, I have to stay healthy so I can make the decisions for the people of the city.
Wow. He has to stay healthy. Okay. All right. We've got it. Okay. So one more thing this is Big Bird de Blasio. Even Cuomo doesn't like him. And this is him with Morning Joe. This is March 10th. March 10th, not that long ago. This is 6 weeks after the travel from China has been shut down. And he's saying, nothing to see here, folks. Move along. Cut 6.
Willie, 8.6 million people here. We have 25 cases as of this morning, and we care deeply about each of those individuals, but against the backdrop of 8.6 million people. And for the vast majority of New Yorkers, life is going on pretty normally right now, and we want to encourage that.
March
if you're
10th,
under 50 and you're healthy, which is most New Yorkers, there's very little threat here. This disease, even if you were to get it, basically acts like a common cold or flu. But our schools are running. And we've said, even if, God forbid, we found a case in a school, we're not shutting down all our schools. We're not even shutting down that school long term. We're going to go in, clean that school, isolate individuals who had that really direct contact, and then get up and running. We'll have a day where a school is shut to get reset, then get back up and running. We cannot shut down because of undue fear. That's my concern. We are better off keeping our society together, our economy together, our schools open. We're better off not closing larger events because from what we're seeing, you don't get this disease by walking into an arena where someone else in that arena has it. So I think there's an overreaction.
So now, of course, when de Blasio is confronted with those statements on those rare, very rare occasions when there's an act of drive-by of random journalism, as Rush calls it, he always goes, this is not a time to look back. This is not a time to point the finger. It's only a time to point the finger when it's Donald Trump. And believe me, Donald Trump has a much less to answer for than de Blasio or Pelosi or many of the other Democrats who were accusing him of xenophobia and racism. 844-500-4242. So I guess there is going to be a press briefing today at the White House. I don't know what it's going to begin, but of course the fingers will be pointing. It will be a moment to look back in anger at whatever Trump did or didn't do. Are you going to fire the great public servant, Dr. Fauci? We'll be right back. I'm Howie Carr.
Volatility in the market is a fact. What isn't so clear is what the ups and downs of the market can do to your retirement portfolio. For answers, call Kevin Frisby at 800-989-9100. Kevin is president of Frisby & Associates, and he's been helping people cut through the noise to create a retirement and income plan that can take you all the way to and through retirement. Call now for your free 1-hour financial consultation. 800-989-9100. Kevin's book, Every Dime, Every Day, taps into his real-world experience and can help guide you to a successful retirement and make sure you never run out of money. Your analysis includes a portfolio x-ray showing any hidden fees in your current plan. He'll show you how by claiming Social Security at the right time can make a huge difference in your retirement income. Catch Kevin on the Howie Carr radio program every Thursday afternoon for a market review, as well as tips on creating the retirement of your dreams. Call Kevin Frisby today, 800-989-9100. That's 800-989-9100.
He's the gaffe that keeps on giving. Here's 1 minute of former Vice President Joe Biden.
You teachers who touch them, figuratively speaking, well, I hope you touch them and tell them how much you love them too. But my point is, when you touch their hearts,
I get in trouble with some of the things I say, but I want to tell you, just be straight up. If I'm your president, me, it starts here in my gut, it goes to my heart, and then I articulate it.
and by the way, I sit on the stand and it get hot. I got hairy legs that turn blonde in the sun. And the kids used to come up and reach in the pool and rub my leg down so it was straight, and then watch the hair come back up again. 1.2 billion. So you go ahead and you stack spaghetti sauce at a store in a supermarket. You control the guy or the woman who brings out the carts on a forklift. So I learned about roaches. I learned about kids jumping on my lap, and I've loved kids jumping on my lap.
Here's how it works with my retirement accounts, and I'll bet yours too. If your 401k, your SEP, your IRA, whatever is going up, you probably don't think very much about it, right? But if it's going down, well, there's nothing much else you can think of. So for the last couple of years, none of us have been worrying much about those quarterly statements. But lately, it's gotten a little worrisome. It's not that bad, not yet anyway, but what goes up must come down. Now is the time to start thinking about adjusting your investments. Gold and silver have always been a hedge against stock market volatility. Uncertainty about the future has traditionally met rising prices for precious metals. Orion Metal Exchange is the only precious metals company I trust. Give Orion a call to get a free, no-obligation investment guide about protecting your future with an enduring investment in gold and silver. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain, including peace of mind, by calling Orion Metal Exchange now. Call them today at 800-912-2300. And with Orion, you'll get more metal for your money. Call 800-912-2300. That's 800-912-2300.
Jim Acosta, without a doubt, wins the competition for Trump's least favorite journalist of all time. Let's listen to some of their feistier moments.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Should I let him have a little bit more? What do you think, Peter? Peter, should I let him have a little bit more? Sit down. I'm changing it from fake news, though.
Doesn't that undermine?
Very fake news.
I know, but aren't you?
When I raise money, excuse me, I've watched you on television. You're a real beauty.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN. Right. And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, what do you say to your critics who say that you're concocting a national emergency here in order to get your wall? Because
Pelosi.
But again, don't
you have these wings, AOC and her group on one side.
It's like five people. They would say, play games, and then they'd say, open sesame, except we don't say sesame, we say open Biden. But no, I because we are not. We have the number is growing. We have 91 women. There are 115 women in Congress, 116. 15 are Republican, 91 are Democrats. I happen to be a manifestation of the women power that is coming forth now, but only one manifestation. It was like getting kicked in the back by a mule constantly. It was physical. It was so unbelievable. The Times found Lincoln. Not to be presumptuous to put ourselves in those categories, but the Times have found us.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
844-500-4242. We're up and running again. I think we're back on YouTube. We're back everywhere now, and we apologize for all the technical difficulties today. And it's this extreme climate. You know what it's like. It's bad for us. It's worse for polar bears. That's the way it works. 844-500-4242. And if you want to get into the contest to get a free hair transplant, go to hairman.com/Howie and get the details. We'll have more details tomorrow or the next day with Dr. Highness. We had a problem with him too, with getting him when our power was knocked out. Anyway. 844-500-4242. Chris Stegall has a great column today on Town Hall. Biden's running mate has been picked for him. And, he's committed to a female running mate. But the list, they're all extremely flawed. But Chris Stegall has got the answer for him. He knows who the running mate is going to be. Chris, thanks for being with us here on the Howie Carr Show.
Howie, great to talk to you, my man. It's a Monday, isn't it? It feels like a Monday all over, doesn't it? How you doing?
Just another manic Monday. So who do you think is going to be Joe Biden's running mate, as you pointed out in your column today on Town Hall?
Well, I thought about it, and it occurred to me as we turned the corner on COVID-19, news is starting to look more promising. Deaths have been revised down. I mean, it's still very serious. Don't misunderstand, but it's looking like there's better news ahead. We're not getting nearly the hospital bed admissions that we thought, and there's more CNN's reporting on hydroxychloroquine now. So there's good news to be found, which means that's bad news for Democrats. And it occurs to me that when Jake Tapper asks Dr. Fauci about elections and will we be safe from COVID-19 in November, I thought to myself, that's Joe Biden's running mate. That's the Democrats' running mate, COVID-19. So Biden, COVID, 2020.
20. Joe's going to get very confused there, considering he can't remember who to his text number.
That's right, 3030192020. Poor guy.
Right.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wake up and I think it's 1920. Yeah.
That's right. He's going to take us all the way back. He's going to take us backwards to go forwards, or something like that.
Yeah. So in the Wayback Machine, did you hear Did you hear his podcast today? This is the beginning of his podcast, and we've been thinking about it. Most of us have done podcasts in the past. The great thing about a podcast is that you get multiple chances to, if you screw up the intro, you just do it over again, take two, right? Not Joe Biden though.
Right.
Do we have that, Taylor? This is Joe Biden's beginning today.
No, I've got another one, but it's pretty good. I'll play it for you.
Okay, we'll play it. Okay, we'll play more from the podcast. This is the Joe Biden podcast. Here it is. Here it comes.
We're going to finally achieve comprehensive immigration reform as well, put millions of citizens on a pathway to citizenship, including so many who are in the
Putting citizens on a
pathway to citizenship. As I always say, can we quote you on that, Mr. Vice President? Yes.
Howie, I just don't. How do you have nothing to do but nap in a basement and still screw it up? How is that possible? I mean, if you were asked to do nothing but nap and show up and record a couple of things a day, I think, even I at my worst, back when I was drinking heavily, I could still do a more cogent conversation and podcast than Joe Biden. It's staggering. I mean, imagine this guy back on a regular campaign schedule, Howie. If he can't navigate, from his bunker in the basement, can you imagine him a vigorous 50-state tour?
Many people have
speeches a day.
Many people have speculated that he has a drinking problem, but the fact is he's a teetotaler. He's like Trump. He's never had a drink in his life. And this is still how he operates. It's kind of frightening, isn't it?
Drunken Joe Biden. I can't even imagine the incontinence alone.
At least Ted Kennedy had an excuse. Chris Dodd had an excuse. What's Joe's? Do we have that? Do we have the original cut? Here it is. Here's the first cut as he introduces his podcast this morning.
Well, I'd like to welcome John to the show. John, thanks for being here, pal.
Thank you, sir. Honored to be here.
Well, the fact is that there's a lot going on. I don't know even where to begin this.
Oh, no. Is that real, Howie? Is that real?
That's all, as I say, and when I transcribe these from my own columns in the Boston Herald, I always say, taking a line from the Old Village Voice, all dialogue guaranteed verbatim. And it's...
Oh, my gosh.
But let's look...
Howie... at what point do you pity the guy? When do you tap out? When do you call the round? I mean, this is. No, I hadn't heard that yet.
No, we do these all the time, Chris. By the way, if you want to read Chris's column, you can go to townhall.com. Biden's running mate has been picked for him. But Chris, here's the thing: he is committed to a female running mate. And look at the cast of characters he has to choose from. It's pretty weak group of people. That you have the fake Indian. I don't think that's going to happen. And then you have the governor of Michigan, who is really horrible. Gretchen Whitmer. Have you seen her some of her edicts? You can't buy a barbecue grill. You can't buy seeds to plant your own food.
No, the seeds. The police tape around the seeds was probably my favorite of all of the most outrageous things she's done over the last week. The police tape around the seeds. Yeah, and Warren, remember Warren, of course, she, oh no, I'm confusing that with Bernie. Now I'm pulling a Biden. I forgot. Warren attacked Bernie for being a sexist, not Biden. Although I still don't know how you get around the accusations surrounding Biden with a female candidate. You've got to know that any woman he picks is going to be, at some point, someone interested in being honest enough is going to ask the woman he picks about his history with women, don't you think?
Well, again, the New York Times and the Washington Post have sort of semi-cleared him, and I'm looking now for the actual the stories they wrote. But Gretchen Whitmer, though, I want to get back to her here. She has banned in-state traffic in Michigan. So if you have a cottage, if you live down in the southern part of Michigan and you have a cottage up, I think they call it the North Country, you can't go to that. But as somebody then pointed out, so if I live in Illinois and I have a cottage, that's okay. I can go to the cottage if I'm from Illinois or from Indiana. But if I'm from Michigan, I'm forbidden from going to my own cottage in her state. And I'm one of her voters. 150,000 people have signed online petitions to recall her. She's been so obnoxious. Oh, and then the other thing too is, a couple of weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, maybe now, she said that any physician or pharmacist who gives out hydroxychloroquine would face professional consequences. And that was followed by her request to release hydroxychloroquine for the state of Michigan after she had told people not to prescribe it. How about that?
You can't make it up. And you wonder, is it all her own half-baked ideas? Is it counsel around her?
I don't know. I looked her up. She's got a law degree, so she's a lawyer. So then I thought, okay, who's she married to? She's married to some guy named Doctor. And when I saw Doctor, my eyeballs rolled around. I said, is this a Dr. Jill Biden type of deal? A doctor of education? But actually, she's married to a dentist. So it's basically he's a real doctor. But the thing is, so her husband's office is shut down by her edict in Michigan, but the abortion clinics are still open. Okay, that's the way it works in Michigan, as in many other states. But so that's this. Well, I live down here in Pennsylvania, Howie, where Tom Wolf, our governor, he literally was a Planned Parenthood escort in his younger days. So abortion open for business here in Pennsylvania too. You can also trout fish in Pennsylvania, by the way, but you can't golf. So help me with that one, please. Yeah, well, I mean, a lot of states are shut down for golf. I don't understand it. Did you know that there were three guys from the Rhino governor of Massachusetts shut down the golf courses? So these three guys, I think they were probably laid off from Taunton. They decided to drive down to Rhode Island, and they surreptitiously parked in a McDonald's in rural Rhode Island, transferred their golf clubs to a Rhode Island car, and then drove and played a round of golf in Rhode Island, even though, according to Gina Raimondo, the governor in Rhode Island, only Rhode Islanders are allowed to play in her Reich, the Raimondo Reich of Rhode Island. And these guys were cited by the cops. They were nailed in a sting and charged with playing a round of golf. This is nuts.
In Delaware, we're here. I'm in Philadelphia, neighboring Delaware, not far. You get caught with out-of-state plates driving through Delaware, other than the interstate, and you can be cited. Carper, the governor of Delaware, has said he'll pull anyone over with out-of-state plates.
Yeah,
about that.
She was for a while. She was stopping people coming into the state with New York plates, and so people were going crazy. And they were saying, "Wait a second, what if I own a house in Rhode Island? You're telling me I can't go there, even though I have New York plates?" And then again, but then you also think, how about when you rent a car? You don't know what you could be from Rhode Island and rent a car and it would have New York plates on it. So now you've become public enemy number one. You're John Dillinger. They're going to stop you. How does this work? They're having way too much fun with this stuff. They're all turning into.
Maybe
go ahead, Chris.
Well, maybe I'm just going to say maybe the key is just declare you're on your way to an abortion clinic, no matter what. That's always your out. I'm on my way to an abortion. I got to go.
Well, some of the places, some of the cities in Rhode Island they have called themselves sanctuary cities, and the state's basically a sanctuary state. So my question was, well, wait a second. If I'm in a New York, if I get stopped by the Rhode Island State Police for being in a New York car with New York plates on it, can I just say I'm an illegal alien? You have no you have no right to stop me. I can go on about my way.
That's a wonderful point, Howie. I actually have more rights in this country if I broke in here from Guadalajara than if I went to Delaware tonight.
Right.
How weird is that?
Exactly. Let me read you something. The Post. This is the Washington Post story about Joe Biden and his assault allegations against him. The Post found no other allegations against Biden as serious as Tara Reade's. So does that Now, does that mean that they would say about Chappaquiddick and Ted Kennedy, the Post found no allegations as serious as the fact that he killed Mary Jo Kopechne by drowning her in 1969?
Now, there is nobody that knows this subject better than you, Howie. So I will ask you this because it's been rattling around in my brain. I know that Biden is of that era. He's of that Kennedy, Chris Dodd era that you know so well and have written extensively about. Does that afford them, outside of the Chappaquiddick thing, does that afford them any leeway in your mind when you hear people say, well, they're of an era? Those were gentlemen that behaved of an era, that way of an era. When you hear that argument, what do you say about it?
Well, I was just thinking about all the other ones. Anthony Weiner. Does he say other than sexting pictures of his privates to a 15-year-old girl in North Carolina? That's the only time we know he texted to an underage girl, right? Or the lieutenant governor of Virginia is only accused of raping 2 women, right? The governor of Virginia has only got one picture of himself taken in a Klan hood, and only 2 instances of him with a wearing blackface. It's just something. Hey, Chris, this is a great column. We got to have you on the show again. I appreciate you being with us. I think COVID would be a good one. You heard about the twins in India, right? That one's a female and one's a male, and the parents named one of them Corona and one of them COVID. That was a nice gift to those infants from their parents.
Oh, that's very sweet. That's lovely.
All right, Chris Steele, thanks for being with us, and you can read his column at townhall.com. With all the uncertainty in the world, feeling safe has never been more important. It's why I want to talk to you about Simply Safe Home Security. They're longtime friends of the Howie Carr Show, and for good reason. Simply Safe has made it easy to finally get comprehensive protection for your home. There's no technician or salesperson who needs to come and disrupt your house. You don't need to pay any outrageous monthly fees or sign a 2-year contract. You just order online, set it up yourself in under an hour, and your home is protected 24/7 with emergency dispatch for break-ins, fire, and more. All for just 50 cents a day. And we're not the only fans of Simply Safe, excuse me. U.S. News and World Report named Simply Safe best overall home security of 2020. Right now, when you head to simplysafehowie.com, my listeners will get free shipping and a 60-day risk-free trial. That's simplysafehowie.com to make sure they know that our show sent you. From Simply Safe and all of us here, wishing you safety and good health. I'm Howie Carr.
Howie Carr.
Level 5, that was a bad group. That's as high as it gets. It was a bad grouping of tornadoes, something that's something incredible. The power, the horrible, destructive power. America is continuing to make critical progress in our war against the virus. Over the weekend, the number of daily new infections remained flat, nationwide flat. Hospitalizations are slowing in hotspots like New York, New Jersey, Michigan, and Louisiana. 1 million 1,000 people have died. 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 1 million 1,000 people have This is clear evidence that our aggressive strategy to combat the virus is working and that Americans are following the guidelines. It's been incredible what they've done. You looked at the charts, and the charts are, and the models from early on predictions where 100 and 120,000 people looked like if they did well, they were going to unfortunately perish. And we're going to be hopefully way, way below that number. So that will be a sign of people doing things right, but it's still just a horrible thing all over the world, 184 countries. This is all a tribute to our wonderful healthcare advisors and experts who have been with us right from the beginning. We appreciate it so much. In fact, Dr. Fauci's here. Maybe I could ask Tony to say a few words before we go any further. Thank you very much. Tony, please.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just a couple of things, and then I would just want to make a comment about something that happened yesterday. You're going to hear from Dr. Burke soon about the numbers that we've been talking about, how things are starting to balance off. And I think the more as we go by each day, I think we're going to see, and again, I never like to get ahead of myself or of Dr. Burke's, but it looks like even though we've had a really bad week last week, remember when I was speaking to you before, I was saying this was really a bad week. There's still going to be a lot of deaths, but we're starting to see in some areas now that kind of flattening, particularly in a place that was a hot spot like New York. That's the first thing. The second thing is that I had a really very, very productive conversation with the Congressional Black Caucus this morning for about an hour. And they really wanted to know what exactly are we going to be doing in the immediate as well as the long range about the health disparities and the discrepancies both in infection and in poor outcome in the minorities in general, but specifically African American. And I mean, I made it very clear to them that what we have to do is focus on getting the resources where the vulnerable are to be able to get testing done, to be able to get the appropriate identification where proper and where appropriate to isolate and contact trace if we can, but also to help mitigate in a community that is suffering and suffering much more disproportionately. So I just wanted to get that out of the way. The other point I wanted to make is that I had an interview yesterday that I was asked a hypothetical question. And hypothetical questions sometimes can get you into some difficulty because it's what would have or could have. The nature of the hypothetical question was if, in fact, we had mitigated earlier, could lives have been saved? And the answer to my question was, as I always do, and I'm doing right now, perfectly honestly, say yes. I mean, obviously, if
This
mitigation
is Dan in
helps.
sunny Las Vegas. This is Dan from the moonbat capital of Jamaica Plain. This is Gigi
We'll get
in
that
Leominster,
done.
Massachusetts, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
Should we just go in? Fauci is just, he's speaking at the mic now, and he's saying he answered a hypothetical question. I thought you learned that in junior high school, not to answer hypothetical questions, but here he is answering it.
Fault here. So let me tell you from my experience, and I can only speak from my own experience, is that we had been talking before any meetings that we had about the pros and the cons, the effectiveness or not of strong mitigations. So discussions were going on mostly among the medical people about what that would mean. The first and only time that Dr. Birx and I went in and formally made a recommendation to the president to actually have a, quote, shutdown in the sense of not really shutdown, but to really have strong mitigation. We discussed it. Obviously, there would be concern by some that, in fact, that might have some negative consequences. Nonetheless, the president listened to the recommendation and went to the mitigation. The next second time that I went with Dr. Birx into the president and said, 15 days are not enough. We need to go 30 days. Obviously, there were people who had a problem with that because of the potential secondary effects. Nonetheless, at that time, the president went with the health recommendations, and we extended it another 30 days. So I can only tell you what I know and what my recommendations were. But clearly, as happens all the time, there were interpretations of that response to a hypothetical question that I just thought it would be very nice for me to clarify because I didn't have the chance to clarify. Thank you. Excuse me? The date. To be honest with you, I don't even remember what the date was, but I can just tell you the first and only time that I went in and said we should do mitigation strongly. The response was, yes, we'll do it.
And what did you do? Is that the travel restrictions?
No, the travel restriction is separate. That was whether
The
or not
travel restrictions, we have him repeatedly for a month after the travel restrictions saying it's not a big problem. We'll keep rolling on this and come back with it when we return. I'm Howie Carr.
And the answer was yes.
In this interview, you said there was pushback.
Yeah.
Where did that pushback come from?
No, it wasn't. That was the wrong choice of words. You know what it was? When people discuss, not necessarily in front of the president, when people discuss, they say, well, this is going to have maybe a harmful effect on this or on that. So it was a poor choice of words. There wasn't anybody saying, no, you shouldn't do that.
Are you doing this voluntarily or did the president?
I'm doing it. Everything I do is voluntarily. Please don't even imply that.
So, Mr. President, the question. By the way, the travel ban, that was earlier. The travel ban was done earlier.
And if you look at statistics, I happen to write a couple of them down. If you look at statistics, so on January 6th, that's long before the dates you're talking about, CDC issued a travel notice for Wuhan, China, a notice, before there was even a confirmed case of the virus in the United States. That's on January 6th. This is all documented because we have so much fake news. I like to document things. January 6th, long before the dates we're talking about, CDC issued travel notice to Wuhan, for Wuhan. On January 11th, we have 0 cases in the United States. 0. We don't have any cases. So there are no cases reported that we know of. This is January 11th. The CDC issued a level 1 travel notice for health, while there were still no confirmed cases. So we had 0 cases. People want me to act. I'm supposed to close down the economy, the greatest economy in the history of the world, and we don't have 1 case confirmed in the United States. That's January 11th. On January 17th, the CDC began implementing public health entry screenings at 3 major U.S. airports that received the greatest volume of passengers from Wuhan at my instructions. There was not a single case of the coronavirus in the United States. So on January 17th, there wasn't a case, and the fake news is saying, oh, he didn't act fast enough. Well, you remember what happened, because when I did act, I was criticized by Nancy Pelosi, by Sleepy Joe Biden. I was criticized by everybody. In fact, I was called xenophobic. I was asking Biden to please define that for me. I was called other things by Democrats and some others, not too many others, actually. So that by the media, definitely. Now, on January 21st, is long before the time we're talking, because when Tony's talking, I believe he's talking about the end of February. On January 21st, okay, still early, there was 1 case of the virus. At that time, we called it the Wuhan virus, right? Wuhan. There was 1 case in the whole United States. We had 1 case. This is all documented. It all comes from you. A lot of it comes from you people. On January 21st, the CDC activated an emergency operations center. There was just 1 case, 1 person. That's why that ad was such a phony. There was 1 person in the United States. You know, they use the ad, there's only 1 person. That statement was made at that time. 1 case in the whole United States, 1 case. I'm supposed to shut down the government, the biggest economy in the history of the world. Shut it down. We have 1 case. 7 cases were on January 31st. Now, on January 21st, there was a case. Not 1 person had died. You heard that, Steve, right? Not 1 person. So we have this massive country, the United States of America. We have the greatest economy in the world, bigger than China's by a lot, right? Because of what we've done over the last 3.5 years prior to the virus, but including the virus. So we have the biggest economy, the greatest economy we've ever had, the highest employment numbers, the best employment numbers, best unemployment numbers also, the best of everything. So on January 31st, Think of it. Not one person has died. Not one. Nobody died. Not one, John. I don't think you'll find any. This is reported by CDC, confirmed by the news, which doesn't mean anything to me because they don't tell the truth. But CDC reported January 31st, not one person has died. And I issued a travel restriction from China. Think of it. So nobody died, and I issued. You can't get earlier than that. So we have nobody died, and I said, China, you can't come in. I'm sorry. Because I saw what was going on. It wasn't so much what I was told. It was that I saw what was going on, and I didn't like it. But I didn't speak to Tony about it, didn't speak to very many people about it. I didn't like it. So what did I do? Ready? January 31st, in the United States, not one person had died because of the Wuhan virus. So I issued travel restrictions on that date, even though nobody died, and I got brutalized over it by the press because I was way too early. I shouldn't have done it. Brutalized by the press. But, sort of I've been brutalized for the last 4 years. I used to do well before I decided to run for politics. But I guess I'm doing okay because, to the best of my knowledge, I'm the president of the United States, despite the things that are said. So then, first mandatory quarantine in more than 50 years, we did. First mandatory in 50 years. The same restrictions that the Democrats and the media called xenophobic. Now, Joe Biden said he's a racist. Called me a racist because I said, we're shutting down entry from China. We're shutting it down. He called me xenophobic and he called me a racist and other things. Since then, on a Friday night 2 weeks ago, Joe Biden issued a statement. It wasn't him. He didn't write it. I'm sure he doesn't even know that it was issued. But the people from his campaign who are smart, people that write these little PR releases are pretty smart, reasonably good, not the best, but they're not bad. But they issued a statement saying that Joe Biden agrees that that President Trump was right to close it down to China. Now, he did that. Now, he issued it on a Friday night. We've all heard about that, John, Friday nights, right? In fact, his was later Friday night than I ever released mine on Friday nights, okay? So he did it pretty late. I mean, like at 11 o'clock in the evening or something, it's pretty late. Anyway, so Joe Biden issued, and it's one of those things. But in February, Nancy Pelosi said we should come to Chinatown. This is late February. Come to Chinatown. We think it's very safe. Come here. Let's all have the big parade, Chinatown parade, probably referring to San Francisco. And that's it. But I took this action early. And so the story in the New York Times was a total fake. It's a fake newspaper, and they write fake stories. And someday, hopefully in 5 years when I'm not here, those papers are all going out of business because nobody's going to want to read them. But now they like them because they write about me. Now, with that, I have a couple of we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting. And then we'll answer some questions. I'll ask you some questions because you're so guilty, but forget it. But most importantly, we're going to get back onto the reason we're here, which is the success we're having. Okay? Please, you can put it on. Thank you.
People should be more concerned right now with the flu in this country.
A lot of people are concerned about the coronavirus because they're hearing a lot of news about it right now. But the reality is, comparing it to the flu, for example, it's not even close to being at that stage.
What if it is worse? Is this a moment where maybe countries put politics aside, a little bit of pride aside, and do we have U.S. officials? Should U.S. professionals such as yourself get involved?
How worried should Americans be about coronavirus?
Coronavirus is not going to cause a major issue in the United States.
Well, we've asked them to accelerate whatever they're doing in terms of a vaccine. We will be suspending all travel from Europe to the United States for the next 30 days. To unleash the full power of the federal government in this effort today, I am officially declaring a national emergency. Medicare patients can now visit any doctor by phone or video conference at no additional cost.
The first 1 million masks will be available immediately.
as there were more cases, and it was clear that it was spreading out of China, where it originated. The president took this move that he was widely criticized for by Democrats and even some Republicans at the time, which was he halted a number of flights from China into the U.S. The idea was to halt the spread of the disease, keep transmissions to a minimum. He was accused of xenophobia. He was accused of making a racist move. At the end of the day, it was probably effective because it did actually take a pretty aggressive measure against the spread of the virus.
His team is on it. They've been responsive late at night, early in the morning, and they've thus far been doing everything that they can do. And I want to say thank you. And I want to say that I appreciate it.
He returns calls. He reaches out. He's been proactive. We got that Mercy ship down here in Los Angeles. That was directly because he sent it down here. 2,000 medical units came to the state of California, these FMS, these field medical stations. And that's been very, very helpful.
The president has been outstanding through all this. The vice president's been outstanding. Members of the coronavirus task force, very responsive.
This is incredible, Howie. He's laying out this whole timeline.
No, I know. This is great. I mean, I'm
when,
listening to it.
And he's just setting the record straight for everybody in the room.
I know.
A lot of pushback about shutting things down back then.
Unchained and unstoppable.
China was not truthful with the world at the outset of this. Had they been more truthful with the world, which would have enabled them to be more truthful with themselves, they might have actually been able to contain this entirely.
Rump swabs, hacks, and moonbats beware. It's Howie Carr.
This has just been incredible what's been going on during the top of the hour news break. He's been running clips of
So the story in the New York Times was a total fake. It's a fake newspaper, and they write fake stories. And someday, hopefully in 5 years when I'm not here, those papers are all going out of business because nobody's going to want to read them. But now they like them because they write about me. Now with that, I have a couple of we have a few clips that we're just going to put up. We could turn the lights a little bit lower. I think you'll find them interesting. And then we'll answer some questions. I'll
CNN
ask you some questions. Because you're so guilty.
It's amazing. CNN dumped out of the replay of their own clips. I mean, you knew it was going to happen, and you're going to hear that over and over again for the next 24 hours or so, at least on conservative talk radio and at conservative
He's back live.
TV. He's back live now, but we'll play some of it before we wrap up. But here he's back live. Go ahead.
They'll end up going out of business. So it's too bad. But we could have given, you saw the statements. We have hundreds of statements, including from Democrats and Democrat governors. And if you look, they were all saying, we need ventilators. You don't hear ventilators anymore. They have all the ventilators they need, which we were right about. We said, you're asking for too many. You don't need that. And in all fairness, these two people right here, Dr. Birx, Dr. Fauci, they said, I don't think they need that many ventilators.
We've got the Fauci cuts too when you're ready to play them.
Not knocking New York for this, but they're asking, remember, 40,000 ventilators. And that's more than they have all over the country. And we got them a lot of ventilators, and nobody's complained. We got them, as you know, beautiful. We built hospital rooms all over the country. The governor of Louisiana, John Bel Edwards, was very nice. He said, you know what, you don't have to build a second hospital because good news is happening. They're not able to fill the beds. They needed 2 hospitals. We built one. It was perfect. We're just starting the other. I called him up. I said, do you think we should build the second one? I don't think you're going to need it. He said, let me get back. He got back. We didn't need it. With Governor Cuomo, in all good spirit and faith, he wanted to have the Jacob Javits Center done, and we built 2,900 incredible beds. Then we made it COVID, or to be exactly accurate, COVID-19, and which was a lot of work. We had to change the ductwork. We had to seal up certain areas. We had to put areas of rooftop things over the beds. We did a lot of work, and we had it, but they never really had too much use for it. And they called also, Mayor de Blasio, rightfully, he called, he said, would it be possible to get more medical help. So now not only are we building facilities, they're asking us for help because they're unable to man it. And we got him the help. We got Mayor de Blasio a lot of help. Then when the Javits Center wasn't used much, and then, as you know, we took the Mercy and we took the Comfort, and we made them both Los Angeles and New York. We made them COVID adaptable, which was not easy to do. And we didn't get almost any people sent there. They didn't need them at the beginning because they didn't need it for anything but this, because there were fewer accidents, fewer motorcycles, fewer everything. And what we did was like an incredible job, but they didn't need them. It turned out they were there.
Let's break from this and go back to Fauci answering the questions. This was a statement that he just made because he wanted to correct the record, and he said he shouldn't have been asking a hypothetical question. We'll go back to Trump when he starts taking some questions. And again, I just want to repeat, how ironic is that? CNN, I don't know about MSNBC, but CNN pulled out when he was replaying their own coverage. I mean, that tells you all you need to know about very fake news. Usually you like to take a bow, pat yourself on the back when somebody is playing your newscast, but not CNN. They're a little chagrined by the way they covered this. And they have newsheimers, you know. They don't have Alzheimer's. They have newsheimers. That's Chris Plant's line, but I'm using it now. They expect you to have newsheimers. You're not supposed to remember anything that they said that doesn't advance the agenda. All right, so we have the Fauci cut. Let's play the Fauci.
The other point I wanted to make is that I had an interview yesterday that I was asked a hypothetical question. And hypothetical questions sometimes can get you into some difficulty because it's what would have or could have. The nature of the hypothetical question was, if in fact we had mitigated earlier, could lives have been saved? And the answer to my question was, as I always do, and I'm doing right now, perfectly honestly say, yes. I mean, obviously, if mitigation helps, I've been up here many times telling you that mitigation works. So if mitigation works, and you instigate it and you initiate it earlier, you will probably have saved more lives. If you initiated it later, you probably would have lost more lives.
Yeah. So again, he shouldn't have answered a hypothetical question. I think, you know, most states, both parties have candidate schools for people who want to run for the state legislature. And they try to teach you the basics. And one of the basics of any novice politician to learn is you don't answer a hypothetical question. You're not asked a hypothetical question because they want to elicit your thoughts that are going to help you win votes. You're asked hypothetical questions because they want to get a gotcha out of you. And Fauci is 79 years old. He should know that, even though he's not technically a politician. But he made the mistake, and it's done. And I'm
It's
sure
a poor choice of words. There wasn't anybody saying, no, you shouldn't do that.
Are you doing this voluntarily, or did the president?
I'm doing it. Everything I do is voluntarily. Please don't even imply that.
Why are you wearing a cast on your arm? Did the president break your arm? Did he twist your arm? Please, these people, they are so fraudulent. It's just, it's so bad.
He's taking questions.
844. He's taking questions now. We'll take some.
That was done by a group in the office, and it was done we just put some clips together. I could give you, I'll bet you I have over 100 more clips, even better than them. They were just pieced together over the last 2 hours. That was just, we have far better than that. That's nothing compared to Samba.
This was produced here in the White House.
Yeah, this was done by Dan and a group of people, and they just put it together in a period of probably less than 2 hours.
Why do you feel need to do that?
Because we're getting fake news.
This
and
is
I like
John
to have it
Carl,
corrected.
Mr. Fake
They're
News
saying what a great job we're
ABC.
doing. And the media, these are the governors of California, governor of New Jersey, governor of New York. Look, in New York, we work very close with Andrew. In New York,
Ventilators were going to be a problem. They didn't have a problem. We got them tremendous numbers of thousands, but we got them tremendous numbers
Why
of
did you
ventilators.
feel the need to do that?
You don't
I
hear
love that.
ventilators are a problem. Beds were going to be a problem.
I wonder.
I mean, I'm happy about it. The Javits Center, which is incredible, is almost empty because they don't need them. That's good news, not bad news. I'm not saying, gee, I wish more people were there. I don't want more people there. We brought in the boat. We brought in the comfort. And the comfort was originally not supposed to be for this at all. The coronavirus was not supposed to be for that at all. They called, they said, could we have it? That was a number of weeks ago. We said, we don't think you need it, but if you need it, we'll do it. Then they said, could you get the medical personnel to run the Javits Center? Could you get the medical personnel to run the ship? We said, if it's necessary, we will, and we did. There were military personnel. That's the ones that Mayor de Blasio was so great to in terms of his statements. I mean, I really appreciated his statements. He was so impressed with them, and I am too. The level of genius and bravery, they're great people, the military people. And we pieced that together. I would say it took less than 2 hours. It was done in-house, Steve.
But just to be clear, this was produced by government employees, by people here at the White House, this campaign style.
I wouldn't use the word produced. All they did was took some clips and they just ran them for you. And the reason they did is to keep you honest. Now, I don't think that's going to work. It's not going to have any impact. But just think of it.
They want to impeach him on these things.
You spent government money on this. How dare
some people
you?
wish we never closed it down. Now, if we didn't, we would have lost hundreds of thousands of people. Interestingly, so I'm against it. We did the right thing. Everything we did was right. If we would have closed down,
mistakes along the way here. You think everything you did was right?
Well, look, governors should have had ventilators. They chose not to have them. We were able to get them ventilators. You haven't heard, other than, there was a lot of panic, a lot of screaming. We want ventilators. They got the ventilators. You don't have that anymore. And the surge is supposed to be coming now. And if they do need ventilators, John, we've got almost 10,000 that are ready to rock. We have people standing with those ventilators right now. If you needed 2,000 in New York,
we only have 10,000 ventilators. Will that be enough? All right. Okay, we're going to take a break, and then we will come right back. Everyone needs a great pair of wireless earbuds, now more than ever. I'm holding them up for the social media because we're back on YouTube. You already know that Raycom earbuds start at about half the price of any other premium wireless earbuds on the market, and that they sound just as amazing as other top audio brands you know. You spend time when you're stuck at home, self-quarantining or whatever, with your loved ones, your significant others, and sometimes they want to watch or listen to something and you don't want to listen or watch to something. This is when the Raycom earbuds come in to play. They become invaluable. You just put them in your ears and you're all set. You're not going to bother your significant other, or he can put them in his or her ears and they won't be bothering you. It leads to greater harmony in the home during these troubled times. It also leads to greater harmony in the car whenever you're driving around. If she's listening to something and you don't want to listen to it, just plug in your Raycom earbuds. Raycon's newest model, the Everyday E25 earbuds, are their best ones yet, with 6 hours of playtime, seamless Bluetooth pairing, more bass, and a more compact design that gives you a nice noise isolating fit. Raycon's wireless earbuds are so comfortable, perfect for conference calls, video chats, or binging podcasts. I listened to them today on the way down from Palm Beach, listening to Rush. The mailroom manager doesn't care much for Rush, so I listened with my Raycom earbuds. You can use them for anything. Unlike some of your other wireless options, Raycom earbuds are both stylish and discreet, with no dangling wires or stems. You've heard me talk about how the company was co-founded by Ray J, and celebrities like Snoop Dogg, Cardi B, Melissa Etheridge, they all love these, and I love them too. You're going to love them. They're obsessed with Raycons, and you soon will be. Now's the time to see what the hype is all about. There's never a better time to buy them than right now when you're stuck at home. Get 15% off your order to buy Raycon at buyraycon.com/Howie. That's buyraycon.com/Howie for 15% off Raycon wireless earbuds. Buyraycon.com/Howie, buyraycon.com/Howie. I'm Howie Carr.
believed we did. Now, many of the governors were asking for far too many. And we said they were asking for far too many. We talked and we said, you said very strongly that they just don't need that many. You said they don't need that many beds, Deborah. So that's it. Steve, go ahead.
Dr. Fauci are on the same page.
Yeah, we have been from the beginning. I don't know what it is exactly, but if I put somebody's opinion up, I don't mind controversy. I think controversy is a good thing, not a bad thing. But I want it to be honest controversy. Now, when I got a call not very quickly, and nobody saw that as being any big deal. They said, how are you doing with Dr. Fauci? I said, I'm doing great. And I didn't talk to Dr. Fauci even until we just got here. Dr. Fauci asked one of the people if he could get up and speak. And he did.
So he said
and they totally misinterpreted him. I saw what they did.
Can I ask you, he said the question was hypothetical, but what he was just acknowledging is that lives would have been saved if the mitigation practices were put into place earlier. That seems obvious. Do you not agree with that?
Here's the thing. Now, what he really is saying, though, but how could you have done it? Look, I just went over stats with you right here. How do you close it up? You have no deaths and no cases on January 11th. Doctor, would you recommend closing the United States of America? Oh, this must be terrible. How many cases do we have? None. How many deaths do we have? None. January 17th, go back another week. On January 17th, this is 10 days before I did a little bit less than 10 days before I did the ban. I did a ban on China. You think that was easy? I then did a ban on Europe. And a lot of people said that was an incredible thing to do because you look at Spain. And by the way, we're doing very, very well because when you look at all of those flat graphs and you add it all up, the United States is very low and per capita we're very low. We're doing very well. But how do you close up the United States of America? So on January 6th, no deaths. On January 11th, no deaths. And no cases. On January 17th, no cases, no deaths. I'm supposed to close up the United States of America when I have no cases.
You didn't close it down in the middle of March. You did close it down earlier.
I closed down from China. Excuse me. I closed it down from China. And by the way, some people think I should have waited longer and maybe ridden it out. I disagree with them, okay? But it was thought of. I mean, that was an alternative. There are a lot of people that would have said, let's write it out. Now, I'll give you the good news. If I would have done that, it would have been, I think, catastrophic because their numbers are, Anthony, 1.6 to 2.2 million people would have died if we tried to do that. And I did this last time. Cut it in half. Don't say 2.2 million. Cut it in more than half. Say 1 million people died. Well, that's much more than the Civil War. Cut it in half. Take the million and cut it in half. That's 500,000 people would have died. Now, that number we would have reached, okay? That would have been easy to reach if we did nothing. So we did the right thing, and our timing was very good. But here's the one thing, and you have to say this. When you ask me, why didn't you do this? How come when I did the ban on China and some instituted some very tough things, how come Nancy Pelosi a month later is in Chinatown saying, let's all march, this is not going to happen? How come we have many of the experts from CNN?
This is Jay in Hingham, Massachusetts.
This is Gloria from Haverhill, Mass.
Hi, this is Joe from Howie in the Hills, Florida, and this is the Howie Carr Show.
You want to talk about the pandemic in that press room right now? Everybody who's watching the President of the United States, or almost all of them, have stage 4 Trump derangement syndrome. The question, well, if you had shut it down, you would have saved lives. He keeps going. I told you there wasn't one person who was diagnosed with it, let alone dead. You want me to shut down the United States economy? Yes! It's just insanity. Today's poll question is brought to you by Honey, the easiest way to find the biggest discounts online. It's free to use and will have you saving money in minutes. Download Honey today at joinhoney.com/Howie. That's joinhoney.com/Howie. Taylor, what's the poll question? What are the results thus far?
Would it be wise of President Trump to fire Dr. Fauci?
No.
73% say no.
Okay. And people are saying, oh, well, it wasn't a hypothetical question. He was asking him, well, if you had done that, that's a hypothetical question. Whatever else you want to call 844-500-4242. Let's go back to, I'm sure he's still answering questions. So when did he stop being his wife?
You know what we did? What do you do? What do you do when you have no case in the whole United States? When you excuse me, you reported it. 0 cases, 0 deaths on January 17th.
January, February, the entire
January. I said in January.
Your video has a complete gap.
On January 30th.
What did your administration do in February with the time that your travel ban
A lot. A lot. And in fact, we'll give you a list. What we did, in fact, part of it was up there. We did a lot. Look. You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3. And when you ask me that question, let me ask you this: why did Biden apologize? Why did he write a letter of apology? No, that's very important. Why did the Democrats think that I acted too quickly? You know why? Because they really thought that I acted too quickly. We have done a great job. Now, I could have kept it open. And I could have done what some countries are doing. They're getting beat up pretty badly. I could have kept it open. I thought of keeping it open because nobody's ever heard of closing down a country, let alone the United States of America. But if I would have done that, we would have had hundreds of thousands of people that would right now be dead. We've done this right. And we really have done this right. The problem is the press doesn't cover it the way it should be. Go ahead. One more question, Steve. Go ahead.
There's a debate over what authority you have to order the country reopened. What authority do you
Well, I have the ultimate authority, but we're going to get into that in a minute. We're going to just finish this up. We're going to tell you about other things that we've done right. But I will say this. Had we said, let's just keep going and let's not do a closing, whether it's 2.2 that they at one point predicted as an outside or 1.6 at a lower number, you cut it all the way down to 6 or 7 or 800,000. Take just a fraction of the number that could have happened. It literally would have been more than the Civil War. It would have been a disaster. So the minimum number was 100,000. And I feel pretty good that we're going to be substantially below, Anthony, the 100,000. And I hope we will. All right. So today, the Department of Health and Human Services is announcing 5 new contracts to procure.
Okay, I hope he wraps it up. He didn't need to go into such great length battling it out with those weasels from the Fourth Estate, so-called. But we'll come back. We'll take some calls. We come back, 844-500-4242. I'm Howie Carr.
More than 120,000 total we will have by the end of the year. Now, we're going to help other countries. We're going to help states if they need it. We may help some states stockpile. You know, they're supposed to buy their own stockpile. They have state stockpiles. They're supposed to be using that. And unfortunately, most of the states weren't there. And a lot of people didn't want to talk about it, but they weren't there. We will talk about it at the right time if you want to. I at this point, I'm more focused on getting past this nightmare of epidemic or a pandemic, anything you want to call it. We got to get past it. No one who has needed a ventilator has not gotten a ventilator. Think of that. You know, you heard all about ventilators. We need ventilators because they didn't have them, because the state should have had them. No one who has needed a ventilator has not gotten a ventilator. No one who has needed a hospital bed has been denied a hospital bed. That's not even really our responsibility. Now, if we can help, we're going to do it. But that's where the Army Corps of Engineers did such a great job. We built we built more beds than we thought. We thought in Louisiana we were going heavy. And again, when I called the governor, I said, maybe we shouldn't build that second hospital because we don't want to build it if you don't need it. He called back. He said, I don't think we're going to need it. They had 1,000 rooms, 1,000 beds. and they used a lot of them, but they didn't need the other one, so we stopped it because we don't want to waste. But we're prepared to build thousands more should we need it. I don't think we're going to need it because it looks like we're plateauing and maybe even in many cases coming down. In addition, we've ordered a total of 60 mobile contamination systems. So the decontamination system from Bethel in Ohio is an incredible thing because it takes the masks and up to 20 times you can decontaminate a mask. And I've been asking from the beginning, why can't we sterilize? Personal protective equipment into the United States, which has now delivered nearly 500,000 N95 masks, 370 million gloves, 25 million surgical masks, and 4.9 million gowns. So we have millions of gowns, gloves, masks, all surgical equipment coming in should the states need it. Now, the states are supposed to be buying their own stuff, but should they need it, we are ready to give them because we're building up our stockpile again like crazy. Remember, I and you saw the stories, I inherited this administration, Mike, myself, the whole administration, we inherited a stockpile where the cupboards were bare. There was nothing. And I say it, and I'll say it again, just like we didn't have ammunition, we didn't have medical supplies, we didn't have ventilators, we didn't have a lot of things that should have been had. And you can read your own stories on that because you know what happened. They didn't want to spend the money, but we did. To date, we've facilitated the supply of more than 38 million N95 masks nationwide. This week, we'll be sending 2 million N95 masks to the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. The vice president will go into more detail. He's got great detail on that, and I think it's a pretty amazing story. We have a lot of masks already in stock, and we have more coming. We're further expanding hospital surge capacity in key areas of the opening, and we have a portion of certain VA hospitals and non-veteran coronavirus patients, including at the East Orange, New Jersey Medical Center, as well as facilities in Manhattan and Brooklyn. They're ready, they're able, they're beautiful. Hopefully we won't need too many of them because, frankly, we built everything that the governors wanted, and in many cases it's too much. We told them it was too much, but we wanted to err on the side of caution. The United States has now conducted nearly 3 million.
Live from the Matthews Brothers Studios.
You know you're a fake. You know that. Your whole network, the way you cover it, is fake. And most of you, and not all of you, but the people are wise to you. That's why you have a lower approval rating than you've ever had before, times probably 3.
You know, I love the fact that he played that compendium, that reel of all their poo-pooing of it. I mean, it's one thing when we do it, or Washington Free Beacon, or Sean Hannity does it. It's just one thing when he just throws it right in their faces and they have to cut it off. It's like being confronted with their own words.
But Howie, I love how John Carls says to him, "Why do you feel the need to play this? You sick man. Why do you feel the need to play this?" "Oh, I don't know, John, because you're all liars. And this is the only time that I'm going to be not cut up in a bad way." "Oh, but wait, CNN did dump him, so I guess that doesn't even make sense."
Yeah, it's like Dracula when he's confronted with a crucifix or a silver bullet or a clove of garlic. They have to cut out and get out, abandon ship. And what do they come back to? Probably, Don Lemon is having tequila shots at the studio, getting ready for his piss poor, low-rated program of the evening. But they cut right out of it. It's great stuff. So anyway, we're gonna take some calls. We haven't taken any calls today because we've had technical difficulties. We apologize for any problems. And again, if you want to get in on the contest to win a free hair transplant. It's a great contest. Go to hairman.com/Howie, and it's sponsored by DiStefano Hair Restoration Center. We'll have Dr. Highness on tomorrow. 844-500-4242. Russ, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Russ.
You know, Howie, I am so proud of the president, and we are so lucky to have a commander-in-chief right now to get us through these rough waters. And, you know, the scumbag left-stream media, what they don't understand is this. The majority of the American people will get the facts, and not from those weasels. The president's going to prevail because you cannot beat somebody with nobody. And the other thing is, you haven't mentioned this, but, you know, Chris Wallace and Mark Cuban, they really aggravated me yesterday. And Howie, I'll never forget that you were the one that exposed Chris Wallace, the fact that he had the fire down below the mid-rhino.
He had a man crush.
And now, yeah, a man crush, or however the hell you want to put it, okay? But the reason why I can't stand Mark Cuban, he is part of the problem why we have this shortage of medical supplies in this country. Anytime anyone gets on Shark Tank over there, and they say that they're manufacturing in the United States, he makes them out to be fools.
Does he? I don't watch that show. I've watched it a couple of times when people I know were on there, but I've never become a regular viewer of it. So he doesn't. He just says, why can't you make it cheaper if you do it offshore? Is that what he says?
Yeah.
Ugh, what a jerk. Yeah.
He also owns an NBA team, and the NBA is, they love China.
Right. Yeah, he owns the Dallas Mavericks. It's pretty good. It's a good team. But he's just one of these guys who's I think he looks at Trump and says, "Gee, Trump did it. I'm on a TV show. Why can't I be president of the United States?" So I think there's a little bit of jealousy there. The jealousy, it was the late John McCain, Willard Mitt Romney. Did you see Willard Mitt Romney, by the way? I don't think I mentioned this last week. Willard Mitt Romney says the president has got to explain why he fired the inspector general of the intelligence community. Hey, Mitt, I have a suggestion. Why don't you start reading newspapers? You don't know why he fired him? Do you ever study Russiagate, Ukrainegate? You might know. You might learn something instead
Howie,
of just working on your hair.
Watching that press conference, Paula Reed from CBS, I said to Taylor, I've seen a lot of these people in the last 5 years, a lot of these hack reporters.
Yeah.
And I said, she might be one of the worst I've ever seen. So Molly Hemingway tweeted basically the same thing and tagged her. And I clicked on Paula Reed's Twitter. She's already retweeted the video of her grilling Trump at the press conference. All these people just want to be stars. They don't care about actually asking any important questions. They just want to get a video clip they can retweet 4 minutes into the press conference and get more Twitter followers.
Right. Like I said this in my column last week, Grace. #heroes. That's what they want to be. They don't want to break any stories. They just want to they want to go viral. That's all they want to do is go viral. And should we look back over the last week of us, or 2 weeks of CBS? They ran the fake video from an Italian hospital claiming it was a New York hospital, right? They had to apologize for it. Then a couple of days later, they ran the same video of the Italian hospital and claimed it was a New York hospital. Then they retweeted a woman's, I don't know if it was on YouTube or I guess it was a tweet. She put out a tweet, this crazy woman, claiming that she had to quit working as an emergency room nurse because there was no PPEs for her, and she was scared of getting coronavirus and dying. And then after about 10 seconds of research by somebody, it turned out she hasn't worked in a hospital for over a year. And then last night, 60 minutes of Texas Air National Guard trying to frame George Bush in the 2004 election and many other butchered, aborted stories, some of which are in Boston. They 60 Minutes ran a story about how this hospital in New York City was not getting enough medical equipment, but it was not a very well stood up story. They just had some doctor with Trump derangement syndrome. They didn't talk to any of the professionals in the hospital, and then somebody checked out their ratings by all the services that rate hospitals, and this is not a very well regarded hospital in the city of New York. But hey, they wanted to promote. They promoted an anti-Trump theme. Then it's fine. They're just going to run with it. 844-500-4242. George, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, George.
Yeah, hi, Howie. Great show as usual.
Thank you.
Yeah, so, I'm a political junkie, and I want to keep on top of this virus. And so anyways, in my research, and I have it in front of me, this is something from June 25th, 2012, from ABC, 3 years after the swine flu. And it says, swine flu may have killed 15 times more than first said. The corrupt WHO, that word corrupt,
right,
counted 19,000 swine flu deaths. But according to new estimates from CDC, the virus probably killed worldwide between 400 and 600,000 people in its first year alone worldwide.
Oddly, George, I don't remember reading that story. Did you remember reading it until you went online?
I never would have found it, and that was 3 years after.
Right. Because it's just because it wasn't a big deal. I've been relaxing over on the weekends by reading these old mystery books from the 50s, just because I can't take watching TV anymore. I was reading one last night about this guy. He was on the run, and so he turns in the radio to see what the radio newscast is reporting about him. And so he lists all the stories they go through. There was a shoplifting incident, and he says, oh, and the mayor, before they get to him being an escapee, they said, oh, and the mayor has not reported for work at City Hall today because he has the Asian flu. And the Asian flu was this is from 1957, 58. That was a big deal back then, but it wasn't, nobody thought more than a second about it. It was just a passing thing. Oh, I got the Asian flu, or the mayor got the Asian flu. It's been handled in the past in different ways. Never like this. Thanks for the call, George. Pete, you're next with Howie Carr. Go ahead, Pete.
Hey, Howie, it's Pete from Detroit, and this Governor Gretchen Half Whitmer. Did you see Charles?
Yes.
Half Whitmer. You got to be kidding me! I went into a Cabela's type store. They could sell me an AR-15, but I couldn't buy tackle. I couldn't buy a fishing rod. I wanted to get some walkie-talkies for my daughter, who's 7.
Wait a second. Yeah, you can't buy a fishing? Why can't you buy a fishing rod?
Because it's not essential. Are you kidding me? It's ridiculous. They can't sell seeds. I mean, I'm a transplant from New Hampshire, live free or die. But Michigan, you got to be kidding me. It's like...
Well, how about the fact that I mentioned this earlier with Chris Stegall last hour? How about if the fact if you own a vacation cottage upstate Michigan, you can't go to it. But if you're from out of state and you drive into Michigan and you own a cottage, you can go to it. How does that make any sense, Pete?
0 sense, because everybody in Detroit has well, not everybody, but they all travel up north to their vacation homes because there's a million lakes up there, but we're not allowed to travel up there. But someone from out of state can. It makes no sense.
Is she getting any pushback from any Democrats other than that state rep who got the hydroxychloroquine? Is anybody else coming down on her?
I mean, I'm more of a Fox News guy, so I can't I can't lay claim to anything.
Let me read you something here. This is from there was a story in the American Spectator today. Let's see. I'm just reading it here about how they've cordoned off all of the areas in Walmart, Lowe's, Home Depot, etc. including garden centers and plant nurseries. So if grandma went to Walmart for groceries and hoped to pick up some tomato plants or cucumber seeds while she was there, sorry, grandma, you could get $1,000 fine and 90 days in jail for obeying Whitmer's orders. You know what else you can't buy, Pete, in your state? Barbecue grills, lawn chairs, anything in the garden section is verboten.
You know what? They put police tape around the paint section in Home Depot. I was in there yesterday.
Paint section?
In the paint section. They moved these pallets of stuff in between aisles so we couldn't walk down them. It made no sense at all.
Here's another line from the story. Why is the garden section closed at Walmart and yet Michigan residents can still buy lottery tickets? Why, as one perplexed resident complained online, is her dentist's office closed but abortion clinics are still open? So Pete, if you get a toothache, you can't go to the dentist. Can you get the tooth pulled or a new bridge at Planned Parenthood, do you think?
Absolutely not. But I can get a lotto ticket, and I can get some weed, and I can get my bourbon at the liquor store.
Yeah, that's because they can pay taxes. That's because you pay taxes on the bourbon, and the Republican leader of the legislature said, instead of essential versus non-essential, why aren't we thinking about safe versus unsafe? That's a good way to put it. I hadn't thought about that before. Have you signed the petition to recall Governor Whitmer?
Oh, not yet. Should I do it?
I would do it. If I lived in Michigan, I would definitely be trying to recall her. I wonder what her husband thinks. He's a dentist, so he's sitting at home. So too bad he's not. Hey, if he's an abortionist, he'd still be doing his 40 hours a week, right? But he takes care of people rather than committing abortions. All right. Thanks for the call, Pete. I appreciate it. Thanks for listening in Detroit. 844-500-4242. 207 says Maine, 600 cases, 19 deaths, 76,000 unemployed. Ugh. Wow. Talking about erectile dysfunction isn't easy. Usually we just brush it off or blame ourselves, saying things like, I lost my mojo. Or we avoid it altogether with excuses like, I had a long day at work, or sorry, honey, I'm just not feeling it, or maybe tomorrow. But with Roman, it is easy to talk about with a real doctor who can prescribe real medication. It's simple, safe, and totally discreet. If you're sidelined right now, it's a perfect time to take care of this treatable malady. With Roman, you can get a free online evaluation and ongoing care for erectile dysfunction, all from the comfort and privacy of your own home. The doctor will work with you to find the best treatment plan. If medication is appropriate, Roman will ship it to you with free 2-day shipping. The entire process is straightforward, simple, and discreet. Getting started is simple. Just go to getroman.com/Howie and complete an online visit. Erectile dysfunction to be tough to tackle, but now there's Roman. Complete an online visit today to connect with a doctor and take care of it. Just go to getroman.com/Howie to get a free online visit and free 2-day shipping. That's getroman.com/Howie for a free visit to get started. Getroman.com/Howie. I'm Howie Carr.
The Howie Carr Show.
This hour of the Howie Carr Show is brought to you today in part by J.T. Kelly.
Boom. I think it's going to go quickly. Our people want to get back to work, and I think there's a pent-up demand like there hasn't been in a long time. And that's why you see the stock market. I mean, to think that the stock market's at the level it is right now with all that this world and this country has gone. And look at the European Union, how badly decimated they've been. Look at other countries. Look at China, by the way. I've seen the numbers. Look at China. Look at how these countries have been just decimated by this. And to think that the stock market is at this tremendously high number, not that much, it was looking a little bleak for a while, but it hit a certain point and then started going up. I think that's a great tribute to the fact that there's a demand. Yeah.
Mr. President, thank you, sir.
In regards to some of your tweets earlier today, and I think it was Steve's question, my question to you is what provision in the Constitution gives the president the power to open or close state economies? And then
numerous provisions. We'll give you a legal brief if you want.
And then we'll be looking forward to that, sir. But following up, what happens if you say, for instance, we want states to reopen, but California or New York do not open? What would you do then?
I think everybody wants to open. I mean,
Sorry, can I just ask one
I
other
guess,
thing?
that could happen, but I don't think that would happen.
States that have closed, ordered schools closed. It's been states that have ordered businesses like restaurants.
Because I let that happen. Because I would have preferred that. I let that happen. But if I wanted to, I could have closed it up. But I let that happen. And I like the way they've done it. And the 7 that remained really in sort of a lockdown, if you look at those states, they've really done a very good job. They're very much different from a New York or from other places where they've been hit very hard.
You're prepared to pick on states and say, I order you to open your schools, I order you to force kids to be able to go?
Yes, Mr. President, following up on that, there are 2 consortiums of states today, California, Oregon, Washington on the West Coast, northeastern states, totally representing about 100 million people who said they're going to cooperate and decide when to reopen.
Well, they can decide, but
does that undermine what you're trying
no,
to do?
not at all. Let me just tell you, very simple. I'm going to put it very simply. The President of the United States has the authority to do what the President has the authority to do, which is very powerful. The President of the United States calls the shots. If we weren't here for the states, you would have had a problem in this country like you've never seen before. We were here to back them up, and we've more than backed them up. We did a job that nobody ever thought was possible. It's a decision for the President of the United States. Now, with that being said, we're going to work with the states because it's very important. You have local governments. They're pinpointed. It's really, you talk about, it's like a microchip. They're pinpointed. We have local government that hopefully will do a good job. And if they don't do a good job, I'd step in so fast. But no, they can't do anything without the approval of the President of the United States. Go ahead, please.
So if some states refuse to reopen and you order them to, the 10th Amendment of the Constitution says all powers that don't reside in the President of the Congress reside in the states. How do you overcome that?
Well, if some states refuse to open, I would like to see that person run for election. They're going to open. They're going to all open.
The ballot box.
I think that's something that's not going to happen. They want to open. They have to open. They have to get open.
Hi, my name's Jane Lucas, and I am from the town of South China, Maine.
This is Al from Merrimack, New Hampshire.
Hey, I'm Angela from Brewster on the Cape, and this is the one and the only Howie Carr Show.
So remember a couple of days ago, he was asked, when is the country going to reopen? And he said, it's up to the governors to reopen. And they said, how? You're not going to do it. What are you're stepping aside? And he said, check out the Constitution, the 10th Amendment, et cetera, et cetera. So Brian Stelter, Humpty Dumpty of CNN, who doesn't really know much about the Constitution, among many other things, he found that chilling that the president would stand aside and let the governors make the decision. So today, the president says, I'll decide when the country is going to reopen. And so you can guess what the questions are today. Where do you get the authority under the Constitution? It's left to the governors. Have you checked the 10th Amendment to the Bill of Rights of the United States? It's, I don't know. I try not to take it too seriously, but that's why on the weekends, I just soon go back and read my Fawcett gold medal paperback books from the 50s.
Everybody's always blaming me for everything.
There's only so much I can take. 844-500-4242. Did you see what happened in Louisville where they tried to, the mayor tried to ban drive-in church services? And on Holy Thursday, Mayor Greg Fisher declared that drive-in Easter services would be illegal. And then he said that the people in Louisville should snitch on people going to the church services. He said it was to save lives. And they went into federal court at the church, and they got a ruling that it was totally unconstitutional. That was by the judge who's been nominated now for the U.S. District Court of Appeals in D.C. You know, I guess Dianne Feinstein is, when she questions him, she's going to say, "The dogma lives in you. You ruled in favor of the First Amendment. How dare you?" And then there was did you see those in Greenville, Mississippi? The two pastors were going to have services in parking lots, and everybody kept the windows up, and the pastor would speak on the radio, buy time on one of the local radio stations, and the mayor tried to shut him down. And one of the cops told one of the two pastors, "Your rights have been suspended. Your rights have been suspended." And the pastor pointed out, he said, "My rights were not granted by the mayor of Greenville. They were granted by God. Ask the founding fathers." And the other minister said, "So you can buy booze, takeout, curbside service in Greenville, Mississippi, but you're going to be arrested or fined if you go to church. What's done more harm to people, booze or church services?" It was a good question. See me tomorrow at 6:35. I'm Howie Carr.
Of New England, we believe in vehicles that families can trust. And since your safety is our